엠킴TV 구독자 및 시청자 여러분 안녕하세요. 네, 오늘은 지금까지 여러분들이 보셨던 부정선거 관련 소송과는 조금 다른 아주 중요한 또 다른 소송을 하나 가지고 왔습니다. 그리고 아리조나 청문회 하이라이트 몇 가지도 영상으로 준비해 보았습니다. 우선 소송 이야기부터 해보도록 하겠습니다. 트럼프 대선 캠프의 전 외교정책 고문인 카터 페이지라는 사람이 있습니다. 카터 페이지는 법무부와 FBI를 대상으로 지난 주말 소송을 제기했습니다. 도대체 이게 무슨 소송이고 어떤 내용을 담고 있을까요? 배경을 간단하게 설명드리자면 2016년으로 거슬러 올라갑니다. 네, 2016년 대선 전후로 힐러리 클린턴 캠페인에서는 약 4,800만 달러를 들여서 트럼프에 대한 특검을 열었고, 트럼프가 러시아와 공모했다는 누명과 함께 불법적으로 트럼프 캠페인을 스파이하고 또 조사했던 일이 있었습니다. 그때 타겟이 되었던 인물 중 한 명이 오늘 영상에 나올 카터 페이지라는 전 트럼프 캠프의 외교정책 고문이었습니다. 그가 지난 주말 제기한 소송문에 따르면 그는 트럼프 캠페인의 대선 고문이라는 이유로 2016년부터 FBI와 법무부에게 불법 감시와 또 심지어 살해 협박까지 받았었다는 내용이 있습니다. 그리고 FBI와 법무부에서는 2016년 대선 이후에도 트럼프를 러시아의 공모죄와 엮어서 탄핵시키기 위해서 FISA라고 부르는 Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, 해외정보감시법을 적용시켜서 공식적으로 카터 페이지와 또 트럼프 캠페인에 대한 스파이 허락을 받아냈었고, 지속적인 도청과 트럼프 캠페인에 대한 스파이를 그런 식으로 진행해 왔습니다. 그러나 길고 긴 그들의 특검 끝에 결국 카터 페이지와 트럼프의 무죄가 밝혀지면서 트럼프와 카터 페이지에게 누명을 씌웠던 FBI와 법무부의 핵심 인물들이 그들의 잘못된 판단과 또 유죄를 인정하는 어마어마한 일들이 있었는데요. 그래서 지난 주말 카터 페이지는 그가 받았던 수많은 협박과 도청 그리고 스파이 혐의에 대해 공식적으로 FBI와 법무부의 핵심 인물들을 고소했습니다. 그리고 그 직후에 팍스뉴스와 짧은 인터뷰 시간을 가졌었는데요. 그 영상을 한번 보시겠습니다.
He commented on former campaign advisor Carter Page, who just this weekend filed a $75 million lawsuit against the Department of Justice and the FBI. He was a victim of the unlawful spying as part of the special counsel's investigation into Russia. And joining me right now is the man himself, former Trump foreign policy advisor, Carter Page. Carter, it's great to have you this morning. Thank you so much for being here. I've got your lawsuit in front of me, and in it, you are suing Jim Comey, Andrew McCabe, Kevin Kleinsmith, who we know already pled guilty to lying on a document that was used to get the FISA warrant to spy on you. Tell me in a nutshell what this lawsuit is about, Carter.
Maria, the lawsuit is really just achieving justice after over 4 years of injustices and one of the greatest civil rights violations by the U.S. intelligence community in American history. The time has finally come. People have been digging for the truth and trying to get some semblance of justice after these terrible crimes. So this case is an important next step, really an essential step in terms of achieving those objectives.
Well, your life was completely ruined. You were wiretapped. You were spied on by the FBI. And that meant, what? Tell us what that means. I mean, they had your phone calls, your emails, your texts, everything. And then that gave them a window into the Trump campaign. You were never charged with anything. You were a victim of an effort to take down President Trump and candidate Trump.
Well, and that's exactly right, Maria. And just like President Trump spoke with you about yesterday, I mean, what happened to me, it was just not about me. Obviously, they were just using me as a window to essentially infiltrate the first Trump campaign 4 years ago. So, unfortunately, I mean, the death threats and the terrible assault on the democracy that I've suffered, there were so many other people who were also, you know, junior Trump campaign volunteers and people just trying to participate in our political process. And unfortunately, we're just in a situation where, you know, again, 4 years later, just like President Trump was saying to you yesterday, we still have not gotten to the full truth and achieved final justice as of yet.
So one thing was the fact that you had meetings with Russians, and some of those Russians, the FBI said, were questionable figures. You had, years before Trump even came into the picture, you had worked with the CIA. You were actually working alongside the CIA to take down certain Russians. Is that right?
Both the CIA, the FBI, and other intelligence agencies, not just over the last several years, but going back decades. I've had a long-standing relationship and been a supporter of our national security infrastructure, if you will, including the intelligence agencies.
So from an outsider's perspective, they see you and they say, oh, this guy Carter Page has been hanging out with all these questionable Russians. So from an outsider's perspective, one would say, well, why is that? Oh, he's connected to Donald Trump. Well, maybe they colluded with Russia. But one had to look a little further into the story to understand that you had worked with law enforcement over the years, and that's why you had these relationships. So Kevin Kleinsmith, who was a FBI agent, wrote that you were not an asset of the CIA, and that's how they got a warrant to spy on you. When I said your life was ruined and changed, it's because you did get those death threats. I asked President Trump about the role the FBI and the Department of Justice are playing in the investigation since your voter fraud yesterday. Listen to what he said, Carter. Where is the DOJ and the FBI in all of this, Mr. President? You have laid out some serious charges here. Shouldn't this be something that the FBI is investigating? Are they? Is the DOJ investigating?
It's inconceivable. You would think if you're in the FBI or Department of Justice, this is the biggest thing you could be looking at. Where are they? I've not seen anything. I mean, they just keep moving along, and they go on to the next president.
Carter, in fact, on November 10th, 2020, Andrew McCabe testified in front of the Senate Judiciary hearing. He said any material misrepresentation or error in the FISA application is unacceptable. Your reaction to what you heard from Andy McCabe?
Well, unfortunately, it's just a continuation. I've tried to help for going back so long with the U.S. intelligence community, particularly the FBI. I sent, as I talked about in my complaint, I sent a letter to FBI Director Comey 2 days after these defamatory articles started coming out from big tech companies and the big media. So, I've been largely fighting on my own, but now I've got a great small team of entrepreneurial attorneys who have been really helping me tremendously in terms of putting together this very strong case, I believe.
Carter, real quick, what do you want the American people to understand about your story?
It's going to be a long uphill battle, Maria. I think if people can help Lynn Wood and his team at Fight Back Foundation, fightback.law, to the extent people can help, it would be a huge support, because it's going to be a long, ongoing battle, and we're up against some of the biggest forces in America.
네, 11월 3일 미국 대선이 부정선거에 대한 이슈에서 이제는 진실과 가짜를 밝혀내는 문제로 점점 커지더니 더 나아가서 2016년부터 진행되어 왔던 또 다른 형태의 기득권의 부정과 부패까지 모두 다 드러내고 있는 것 같습니다. 네, 이번 선거가 꼭 민주주의를 방해하는 이 부정의 뿌리를 꼭 뽑아내는 계기가 되기를 바라며, 다음 영상은 아리조나주에서 열렸던 부정선거 청문회의 하이라이트 영상입니다. 10시간이 넘는 영상이어서 제가 전부 다 보지는 못했지만 중요하다고 생각하는 증인들의 짧은 하이라이트 영상과 그리고 트럼프 대통령의 음성 통화까지 담아서 가져와 봤습니다. 한번 보실게요.
We are going to ask you as legislators to reclaim that authority and to make sure that the people of Arizona and indeed the people of the United States of America as a whole are not disenfranchised by corruption. Federalist 68, Alexander Hamilton talks about the method of choosing our chief magistrate, our president of the United States, and that this safeguard of vesting that authority exclusively with the state legislatures is the safeguard to making sure that corruption does not win. And when the vote of the people and the voice of the people, then it is the responsibility, the duty, and the obligation not just the choice, but the actual duty and obligation of the legislature to step in and to make sure that you don't certify false results. You are the last step to make sure that this election is not corrupted. And again, we aren't asking you to step in and overturn an election. We are asking you to step in to make sure that the corruption that occurred here does not stand.
My only concern is the handling of the ballots, which makes them ineligible to go through the machine correctly. But it's the room before me and the room after me it's a concern. I don't get to see who.
Well, let me ask you about that. So a certain number of ballots were now put aside as duplicates.
Yes.
Duplicates means that they had a problem.
That's what
Duplicates
they
can
called it.
sound like two ballots. What
Right.
it meant was there's something wrong with it, and therefore we may have to duplicate it. And they were put aside,
Put aside,
and they were
taken
brought
out.
into another room, and
Two people.
you were not allowed to go in there.
No, I was not allowed to go back there.
So you were cut off from that also.
Yes. I was
You
specifically
were cut off from
taken
observing
out.
the problem ballots.
Yes, I was specifically taken out of that room, ushered out, and brought into this room, which really was just the room, as I explained.
And how many could you estimate that is?
Each table would have an average of, let's see, I would say maybe 1/16 of the pile. So, let's say an average of maybe 10 to 20 ballots. But by the time I left, these bins were filled. They would fill them, they would go correct them or whatever it is that they did and brought them back.
Best estimate.
In the day that I was there, just in 5
yeah.
hours, maybe 2,000 ballots.
Okay. If you could just tell us in your, in the simplest way possible, as an expert, what is your opinion as to the validity of the numbers that were certified today by the Secretary of State and the governor about this election?
If I was an executive at a publicly traded company, I would never sign that because I risk jail time and having all my money taken from me in lawsuits. So to answer your question, I would never ever have certified. I'd rather resign than have certified those results.
So your professional opinion is that the numbers are fraudulent?
I believe they're fraudulent based on the data. And my sister asked me a simple question this morning. She goes, "How sure are you?" And my sister's a pretty stubborn person like me. And I said, I'd be willing to put my life on it. I'm that sure about the analysis, assuming that the data that I got from the state and everything else was accurate.
The Wednesday before the Friday that we quit voting, so 10 days before they quit tabulating, they thought they were done. And then more truckloads of ballots would come in. I'm like, how can you not know how many ballots are still out there?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
Yeah.
They thought they were done.
They thought they were
and
done
then there was
multiple times.
there was what?
Multiple times, the people that were running the rooms thought they were done or almost done, or were going to be done Wednesday morning, then Thursday morning, then Friday morning, then it went on the whole next week. And I'm like, I asked the question, I'm like, you don't know how many ballots are still left to come in? So I don't know who does, again, process project management.
I kept looking at the screen because it seemed very odd. And in the bottom right-hand corner was a yellow banner. And I got into a position where I could see the yellow banner, which said low confidence. Then I started paying much closer attention to the signatures, thinking this didn't even make sense to me because the signature on the ballot that was being compared to other signatures didn't even resemble in any way what they were comparing it to. They were completely illegible. They were just scribbles on the ballot. And there were 5 screeners screening low confidence ballots for an entire afternoon that I was in there. And I asked Celia what the low confidence said, and she said just not to worry about that, that this was a new program that they were testing.
Well, thank you very much. I've been watching the hearings, and they're fascinating, incredible, and I want to just thank all of them on doing this very brave thing. And I know some get heat, but I will tell you, many more get praise from the American public. We got 74 million, and we didn't win. But I know that we won Arizona, and we won Michigan, and we won Georgia, and we won Pennsylvania, and we won Wisconsin. But what they did is they played games, and games like nobody's ever seen before. This is the first time Republicans, or first time anyone has fought back. The 2020 election was rigged. It was a scam, and the whole world is watching, and they're laughing at our country. They're laughing at us. They know who won, and we won by a lot. This shows you how arrogant the Democrats and others were in taking away and stealing an election, because that's what they've tried to do, is steal it. And the easy route for me, when everyone's saying, oh, just focus on 2024, sir, focus on 2024, I said, no, I have to focus on 2 weeks ago, because this is the greatest scam ever perpetrated upon our country. This is the big one. And we went through plenty. We went through the phony Russia, and the phony impeachment, and all of the different things. And then on top of it, you have a governor named Ducey who just rushed, couldn't have gone faster. He just rushed to sign certificates so that Kelly gets into the Senate as soon as possible. What's that all about? He didn't have to sign. And I say, why would he sign when you have these incredible hearings going on that's showing such corruption and such horrible fraud? So you have to figure out what's that all about with Ducey. And I just say that I want to thank you. We're going to win this thing. We're not giving up ever. We'll never give up. There's never been anything like this. Thousands and thousands of votes were cast, and you have some people that were paid to vote. You know that. Well, I will tell you, we are going to fight. We're taking it up all the way. We have additional cases being filed probably tomorrow in Wisconsin and in Georgia. And they're good cases. They're very strong cases by great lawyers and with great facts. And Arizona will not forget what Ducey just did. We're not going to forget the people of Arizona. We had some of the greatest rallies we've ever had. I left those rallies. A lot of you probably were there. And I said, there's no way we lose this state. And we didn't lose the state. We didn't lose the state. We won it by a lot. So I want to thank Rudy. I want to thank all of the political representatives, and I want to thank all of the incredible witnesses for showing bravery and love of your country. Thank you all very much.
네, 펜실베니아주에서처럼 이번 청문회가 아리조나주의 입법부에 어떤 영향을 미치게 될지 기대가 됩니다. 여러분들의 생각은 어떠신가요? 엠킴TV 하루 이슈에서는 지속적으로 미국 대선 특별 시리즈와 다른 해외 이슈에 대한 소식들을 여러분들께 전해드리고 있습니다. 많은 시청과 관심 부탁드리고요. 이 영상이 좋으셨고 앞으로의 영상이 기대되신다면 구독, 좋아요, 그리고 알람 설정까지 부탁드리겠습니다.